Welcome to the HR Insider, your go to podcast for insights into the ever evolving world of HR and organizational strategy. I'm your host, Harshal. In today's episode, we're exploring how non-tech GCCs are evolving to attract and grow tech talent. While the spotlight often stays on startups and IT giants, many non-tech GCCs are making thoughtful strategic moves, right from investing in skills, rethinking their employer brand, and creating meaningful work culture. Today we explore how this shift is playing out on the ground. Joining us is Ms. Misha Kutapa, a seasoned HR leader with rich tapestry of experiences across industries like retail, aerospace, manufacturing, and IT. Currently leading the talent acquisition at Coach Business Solutions, Misha has previously held pivotal roles at Saxo Fifth India, Boeing India, Infosys, and 3M. Misha, welcome to the HR Insider podcast. Really thrilled and excited to have you on the show today.
Hi, Harshal. Thank you so much for having me at the podcast. Really excited for the conversation. Looking forward to it.
Excellent. Misha, I want to start off by knowing more about your journey. Your journey as an HR leader is incredibly inspiring. Can you take us back a bit? What led you to the world of human resources and how did your journey bring you to the GCC space?
Okay, human resources, I think for me was a pretty natural move. I completed my MBA in HR and I developed a liking for HR. And I started off as a recruiter when I joined 3M. So, and this was 15 years ago. And ever since I've stuck onto recruitment as the bread and butter of my life. The shift to GCC though was more organic and not so much intentional. When I say that, I've in my early years of my career, I've had the opportunity of working with bigger firms like Infosys, where the whole foundation of my experience was built. And then came Boeing and then Hudson's Bay, which is a retail GCC. So it was pretty okay for me to kind of get into that whole groove of it because I could then use my recruitment experience and the business acumen and then implement that and support a GCC like Boeing or Hudson's Bay. Here I was able to kind of contribute not only from a process excellence standpoint, but also working very closely with the business, helping them scale some of their capabilities ground up. So, yeah, that way I think I've been fortunate. Currently, my role at Coke is a combination. It's a lot hands on, plus also acting as an advisory to the business.
Excellent. And I think what I hear from your journey, your experience, and the kind of work you have done has been more towards a non-tech space in the GCC ecosystem, right? Wherein we hear a lot about the tech world, tech GCCs and stuff, but with the kind of experience and the success stories you have in your tenure as a seasoned HR, I think that's been very inspiring. And I'm sure today the listeners are gonna take a lot of good insights and inputs on some of the strategies which has worked for you in the past and which is giving some great results when it comes to attracting the tech talent. And building on that, today GCCs that aren't traditionally tech are competing with IT services, right?
Right.
Or the product companies, right, for the allied digital talent. What do you see as the biggest challenges non-tech GCCs face in this competitive environment when they're going after attracting and looking to bring some great talent into their ecosystem?
That's a really good question, Harshal. I think the number of challenges are plenty with the GCCs and especially the ones going after tech talent. One of the primary ones, in my experience, is the lack of clarity of roles. So, when GCCs are just about setting up, they are formulating their own strategies. They're thinking, what should we hire today? Should we start off with just about a couple of engineers or more? And then eventually scale it up. So we don't know what do we want to do 6 months from now, maybe, or 1 year. And this lack of clarity kind of reflects in the type of role that you want to hire. So sometimes you're looking at hiring a tech talent who comes with a combination of skills. And it's a lot of learning through the journey. So you start off with something and then eventually make a switch into something else. And that way, we're not really able to hit the right point many times. And that hinders the hiring process. And that is why a lot of the GCCs have sometimes very longer hiring timelines. The other challenge which I've seen is the talent itself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is there a dearth of talent in the market? Absolutely not. But is everybody in this talent group actually suitable for a GCC setup? Maybe no again, right? When people are hired into a GCC, they need to come with a very, very holistic experience, which is not only they should be very proficient in the work that they do, the skills that they are for, but also at the same time work very closely in partnership with global leaders, be able to influence them, also strategize, think two steps ahead, and be able to communicate very well with your multiple stakeholders. And that is something that probably a very large service organization might not even require. Their roles are very focused, like you are an engineer doing xyz and you continue to do that for a large part of your work, right? But in GCCs that's not the fact. When you actually explore, like if I have to give an example of say data analytics, there are a lot of people who are into data analytics today, but do they know what happens outside of their own world? Probably not, right? And that's exactly what the GCCs are hunting for. And that's where I think a large challenge lies. The third challenge I would say is something that everyone faces, is the brand itself. Now, branding, I feel like nobody has really cracked the code on branding, but definitely when we are going after that small pool and the very elite crowd, right?
Yeah.
There is always higher chances of offer rejects and declines. And that really pulls us back a couple of months from what we want to achieve. And that's how the plan really doesn't go through very well when it comes to hiring. Yeah.
And I think I resonate a lot, especially the employer brand thing, what you spoke about. I think, especially after COVID, I think a lot of people, or even say the job seekers, have become very conscious in terms of what kind of a brand they're joining from a career perspective, because it's just not the job, but it's also about the stability, the future forwardness, the job security perspective. So I think the employer brand has become an essential element. And I think a lot of organizations, be it your services companies, be it your GCCs, are investing heavily in ensuring they can build their employer brand and take a story to the candidate community.
Yeah.
And building on that, with the challenges you spoke about at a macro level, I want to get to more specific to your experience, right? What is working well at Coke, and in your past roles when it comes to attracting strong digital and tech professionals? Are there any specific hiring strategies you have found particularly effective when it comes to getting the people on board, especially for the technology resources? Because when I see the market, when I speak to the CXOs, the founders, one thing they tell me, even if they're offering money what the candidates are asking for, they still are not meeting their hiring goals. They continue to bleed, the project deadlines keep getting impacted. So I want to know some of the golden nuggets from your experience, your past stories, and your current experience, that what is working well at your end.
So, Harshal, I think the strategy varies from companies to company. It's also what stage of your GCC evolution you are at, and that's what plays a very large role. But I think one thing that stands across my experiences at all the GCCs and even currently at Coke is building your hiring strategies and planning very well. So, hiring strategies that are built in collaboration with talent acquisition, the business leaders, and your BHRs actually work much better than the ones that are built in silos, right? So, have spend a lot of that time deciding what do you want to hire, what do you want to do with this particular role, do you have a future plan for this role, how do you want to scale up this particular role and the individuals who come in and sit in those seats. And when we've defined all of that, we as talent acquisition, I think we can partner much effectively with the business. We can really go after the right talent pool, provide them with the exact market intelligence that is required for that role, and also design or redesign our strategies in such a way that we're able to hire the type of person we need. And to my earlier point, it's not only about just the technical skills, it's
Mhm.
also going to be a lot more to do with your other behavioral skills as well. So that combination, if it's defined very clearly, then I think our strategies or our hiring processes are much effective. The second thing is, the part of selection is one aspect, but taking it all the way up until the finish line, like you said, right? We are doing
Yeah.
everything, but candidates don't join us. That is another aspect that a lot of the companies need to pay attention to. And by that I don't mean, spend a lot on things or do something that's really out of the whole market and the norm, but it's those little things, right? One is candidate experience. Your candidate experience starts from the point you've contacted the candidate and talking to the candidate. It's the post offer connects, or POFO, which is called, right?
Hmm.
And again, this cannot be done just by talent acquisition team.
Yeah.
The accountability has to be equally with the hiring managers as well, right? And that's where we make make the candidate feel very important and essential to that role, and that I have seen has played a large part in the candidate being, honest with us. I think today we are at a point where it's okay for a candidate to get a parallel offer and go, which is, I think, okay in my opinion. You're looking for the best choice for yourself, but you have enough trust with the candidate so that they come and tell you in, the right time that, hey, you know what, I think I picked another opportunity over yours, but I had a very good experience with you. And that can go a long way.
Yeah.
Your net promoter value of that candidate from that experience can actually gain you better benefits in the coming future as well.
You know, when we are talking about one of the things you brought up, being honest with the candidate, right? I think super crucial, right? It's a very basic thing, but sometimes I think most of the stakeholders across the engagement chain miss out this element, right? Because everyone is focused on getting a talent onboarded once you have a selection, right? And I think that's very thought provoking how you brought it up. When we are talking about being honest with the candidates, right, that's one aspect, right? And I think that holds true for across the companies, be it the IT services, be it a tech GCCs, be it a non-tech GCCs. Now, if I draw a parallel, right, between a tech GCC and non-tech GCC, do you think couple of strategies are unique to non-tech GCCs when they're attracting the talent, or do you think the hiring strategy, the way they go about their planning, recruitment strategies, and how the organization approach the overall goal, that still remains standardized in that way?
I think from a recruitment process standpoint, the overall, the A to Z of it pretty much remains the same. I mean, recruitment across the world doesn't really change so much, but I think a combination of multiple things might differ. Now, within a non-tech GCC itself, your strategy to hire somebody in the non-tech space is very different versus, when we want to hire people in the tech space itself, right? And that is more to do with, you will expect or foresee that there will be more declines in the tech area, and you will tend to kind of do more, put more efforts there. In the other roles such as operations or any of your corporate positions, your need and the ask is very different. So there, a lot of the technical aspects are something that we can still train and work with, but there the people aspect really plays a big part. So that's where I think the differentiator is. But I feel like overall what happens from point A to point B is pretty much the same.
Another element you brought up was the working as a team versus working in silos, right? Wherein you mentioned about working with the business stakeholders, the HR teams, the TA teams, all coming together and having a common strategy to go out and present a unified stand when it comes to attracting the talent. In reality, do you think such perfect teams exist wherein all three stakeholders are aligned on a same page? They're able to see the challenges in the same way as what one individual is seeing, and then understand and respects the challenges what the other team members might be feeling. For example, let's say for a TA, it might be very difficult to attract a talent with the compensation budget given, but a business leader might be, no, I think this is the right budget, and I feel in this budget you should be able to find a talent, right? So this is something very common what we see across the board, especially in the non-tech GCCs, because I know the tech GCCs would have a lot more budget and lot more element and a kind of a approach when they go out and hire people. But when you look at the retail GCCs, your manufacturing GCCs, they keep an eye on the cost element perspective, because I think that's where their efficiency lies in, right? As a whole ecosystem, right? And in true sense, how GCC really builds and operate around. So do you see that perfect alignment exist on the ground when it comes to finding and hiring the talent?
I think nothing's perfect from the start, Harshal, that's for sure. The whole effort is very intentional. I think, be it the business, be it the talent acquisition or the business partner HRs, we have to have intentional conversations from the very beginning. And the thing that you mentioned about, budgets and compensations, I think this is where a lot of times what we've practiced is starting your hiring process with providing the hiring teams with market intel. Now that cannot happen at few weeks down the line when you've already interviewed a few people. Now you're already having conversations that, hey, this person is more expensive, I don't have the budget, why are we going after such people, and all of that. I think setting the expectation right from the start is essential. That way all of us are mentally also prepared as to what's going to come along our way,
Yeah.
and that way your conversations can be much more meaningful. So few weeks after you've started your hiring process, if you're realizing that the strategy that we set in the beginning is not really making sense for us now, or something in the business changed, and that is why now probably I'm not looking at somebody senior but I'm looking at hiring somebody more junior or anything of that sort, I think those conversations can then come very naturally, and it eases the entire process versus raising those flags at somewhere in the middle and then having to redo a lot of the work.
Now I want to take you through another element. What came out in our conversation was around the employee value proposition, right?
Yeah.
How strong your employee branding is, because that's crucial when you're attracting a talent in today's era, right? How do you shape and communicate your EVP, especially around innovation, purpose, and growth, to resonate with tech savvy talent? Because these three elements are crucial for a tech talent when they're evaluating their next jump, their next career move, their next assignment. Because yes, compensation can be one key element or the deciding factor, but beyond compensation, if we look at, I think the purpose, the career growth opportunities, the organization growth, and the ability and the culture of having innovation in the way the organization functions become very crucial and essential when a candidate is deciding to pick up an offer or not, or decide not to join the organization, right? So how are you shaping the employee value proposition, and what has been working well for you on that front?
So my opinion is, Harshal, that the company's EVP is not just one single thing, right? It's a combination of multiple things. I would say
Yeah.
multiple pillars come together and form that foundation of EVP for a company. The first and the most key aspect of it is your leadership. When a GCC is specially setting up, definitely invest and spend a lot more time in getting the right leaders on board. Now, that is really what defines how the company is going to grow and scale, because the right people and the right leadership on board can really kickstart your journey as a GCC in a very different tangent altogether, right? Leadership, not only like, so when GCCs are just starting and nobody really knows your brand name, it's the people that you look for, and I'm a firm believer of people work for people. So when your leadership not only acts as the brand ambassador for external folks, but also internally they are able to influence a lot of people to continue and work, and that's how they have a very positive influence on retention. So that's one. The second aspect is again tied into the people aspect of it, which is the culture. And a right leadership can drive the right culture. but also organizations need to make a very, very conscious effort on how do you want to drive your culture in the organization. Do you have culture ambassadors? Do you really take that effort to communicate what your culture is? And by culture, I don't mean hosting lavish parties or providing goodies on every occasion. That doesn't define culture. It's how much of the values you follow on your day to day basis. We all know all companies have multiple values listed in their books, but do you actually consciously make an effort to use those values or implement those values when you make big decisions, when you're hiring, when you're thinking through a lot of conversations within the company? That really goes a long way, because people understand that and people hear about it a lot more than just having a lot of social media done. And early GCCs do not have the time and resources to invest in that kind of branding activities as well at that point in time. The third pillar to the EVP would be your development and growth that you kind of mentioned. Now, one of the most effective and long term friendly strategies to build capabilities in India is to grow the in-house talent. I think our in-house population, our or the homegrown talent, is one of the most reliable and something that the companies can depend upon. So take efforts to understand the skill gap on a very timely basis as organizations, channelize a good learning strategy, make sure that you're providing enough resources to the talent in the organization. And this very, very specifically holds good on especially on the tech talent, because tech is always evolving. And today I want to do something, but I also want to upskill. And if the company doesn't support it, then of course I'm not as happy, right,
Yeah.
in the organization.
Yeah.
So every time also development and growth go in hand in hand. So when you say growth, look for opportunities within the organization. It can be the internal mobility, or it can be people. Whenever you have senior or leadership roles, look at your internal talent. I think that really motivates individuals to strive and builds a growth mindset overall in the organization. And that can actually sustain in terms of a lot of the challenges. So when COVID hit, a lot of the companies couldn't scale up or couldn't do a lot. So that's when, in such situations, you can always depend on internal talent and scale them up and grow them. I know a lot of the GCCs, after a certain years of establishment, look at campus hires. So they set aside a certain percentage of their hires for campus and then grow them. So the campus hires are very easily going to stay with you for like good 2 years, right?
Right.
And that investment is pretty good, because you're able to sustain a lot of the job in those 2 years. So these are, I think, some of the strategies that companies implement, and they can have a very sustainable working function in them.
No, I think some great insights and great strategies you covered up in that section. I mean, so many aspects to the employer branding, right? I think it's essential for leaders and for the organizations to open up their horizon and look into different aspects that every touch point, every element what they do could contribute to building an employer brand or connecting with their talent communities or to their various stakeholders, which could have some great results helping them grow their brand and their capabilities in India. My final question to you: looking ahead, what do you think non-tech GCCs need to do differently or double down on if they want to become a true destination of choice for digital talent over the next few years?
I think that that's a question a lot of them are trying to figure out, but I will try to answer that to the best of my capability and understanding. One, I think, Harshal, so GCCs today, a lot of them are now beginning to make the switch from just being a back-end office operations to a center of excellence or innovation hubs.
Yeah.
So this has really brought in a lot of value globally for India as a hub for GCCs. And if you look at some of the GCCs who started early in time, and when GCC was not even a buzzword,
Yeah,
they,
yeah.
I think, took a very, very long time to make that switch. But for the newer ones, I think that's a good case study. We can definitely learn a lot from things that they did during the way. I personally feel that global partners or stakeholders should be involved from the very beginning. So, for example, if there's a executive sponsor for the India Center, they should come and look at what the landscape is today, what other companies are doing, study that a little more, and then create value from the GCC that they are setting up. So that way, we should be able to get out of all the hurdles that we were supposed to face, because we were struggling to build that trust and the rapport, right? So that's one. And the second is, I think, gaining a leverage on their brand by using some groundbreaking technology. Now, when GCC is set up and they are sure of building a tech center in India, look at what's latest in technology. Don't start off with, an age old legacy system, because nobody wants to join that kind of an organization or that kind of space and again do all of it once again, right? What's attracting to the crowd today is working on what's new, what's latest, and that's a trend in technology. So, and especially when it comes to areas like RPA, data analytics, technology infrastructures, there's a lot that has evolved over a period of time. So if
Absolutely.
you're able to make your USP as something that nobody else is doing today, I think that can very easily attract you top talent. The third most for me would be strengthening your leadership engagement. Very, very essential, internally and externally. How well your GCC leaders are able to influence and drive conversations and decisions with your global partners. That plays a huge role in how the India GCC shapes up, right? Externally, how do you work in tandem with the ecosystem? At the end of the day, I think all of us are part of that ecosystem. We have to
Absolutely.
make ways and kind of work with it. But what can you do differently is, can you collaborate better with your peer leadership? Can you drive certain initiatives, be active on social forums? And talent in the market today values that visibility, and automatically they'll start looking at you as an employer of choice. So that really helps you build your brand from the beginning. Your brand as a leader, your brand that you carry for your company, and how you want to attract talent with, everything that you're doing around you.
I think, the conversation today has thrown a lot of different perspective, some very unique outputs to this conversation. I think some great insights you have shared. And I want to thank you, Misha, for bringing such amazing content, knowledge, and perspective to our conversation today. I'm sure our viewers who are watching this podcast would have few nuggets to take with them, implement in their day-to-day activities, and see the change in the results what they're getting. Thanks to you for bringing such a great perspective and loved the conversation today, Misha.
Thank you, Harshal. I think I equally enjoyed the discussion and the conversation, and really thankful or grateful that you had me here. Really looking forward to more such maybe in future.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the end of this today's episode of the HR Insider podcast. It's clear that the non-tech GCCs have an exciting opportunities ahead, right? And the leaders like Misha are paving the way for bold, human-centric strategies. If you found today's conversation interesting and insightful, don't forget to share and subscribe to the HR Insider podcast. Leave us your reviews and share with your network. We will be back soon with more candid conversation and expert insights from across the HR and business landscape. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, this is your host Harshal signing off. Have a good day ahead.